Let's bring in a very smart guy. His name is Dennis Ross. He's the director of the American Center for Political Leadership at Southeastern University. And there he is. What a nice setting. I'm going to enroll
Come on.
the winter term, though. I don't want to be in there in the summer. Southeastern University is in Lakeland, Florida. Very nice place. So, first question for you, Professor, is the damage to the country by the Capitol invasion and riot last week, combined with the impeachment. If you were in a classroom, how would you describe that damage to your students?
I would, and I will do this tomorrow when we start our first class, and I will explain to them that this was a seminal moment in U.S. history, that they are living through one of the most divisive, protracted, and violent times that I've seen since the Vietnam War. With the protests, but I've never seen a breach like what was done last week at the Capitol. And this is all a symptom of a much greater problem. And I think that one of the reasons, what's interesting is that I'll tell you this, I've had more students enroll in my classes as time has gone on, which is good because we've failed to be able to teach this stuff called politics and political science and civics and civil discourse. And so this is a part of a symptom of a serious problem where we have become totally disengaged with a process that's been in place for over 243 years that allows us to effectuate change through due process, not through violence. And, you know, a lot of it is built up out of mistrust. Politicians are much at fault for that. You know, I was one myself. Media is definitely at fault for that. But the American people are looking for a sense of trust, and they're not finding it. And that's probably the straw that broke the camel's back last week, as they said, you know, we don't trust the elections anymore, and our president's telling us not to trust them, and so we want to take back our country. No excuse. I'm not saying that's a valid excuse. There's no excuse at all for what happened last week. But what I'm saying is the American people are so desperate for some type of leadership that exudes at least a scintilla of trust and an even smaller scintilla of humility.
And they're angry about the corruption. Now, you were a congressman in Florida. You were a national congressman for 10 years. But you just got out of there in 2018, all right,
Correct.
2 years into the Trump presidency. Since 18, in just 2 years, this country has changed dramatically. Can you explain why?
Frightening. You know, a lot of it happened in 2016 with the delegitimization movement of Donald Trump as president. And I think that just created a greater polarization, a strong divisiveness that couldn't be bridged. You know, the American people are losing sight of the fact that we are a citizen form of government and we require people to be engaged through a process that exists. We don't even teach civil discourse. Bill, if I can't have a civil conversation with my family members about political goings on, then what about the rest of the nation? We need, it's not a civil war this country needs. This country needs a civic renaissance, and it needs to start in higher education. It needs to be supported by corporate America, and we have to practice it every day. And it is truly looking out for each other. That's what a citizen democracy is all about. It's unfortunate where we are.
Yeah, but you know, the theoretical we need, we should, we do. I agree with all of that, but I don't think it's going to happen. And I want to get down to really what is reality at this point. Do you believe there has been a rise on the right, based upon all the things that you've said, corruption, lack of trust in our essential democratic institutions? Do you believe that there is a rise, more people coming in, of violent far-right fanatics?
I think there's been a growth on both sides of the extremes. And that's what's disconcerting to me, because I think we need to have, you know, I was a conservative. I still am a conservative. I was, in fact, my first term in Congress, I was one of the top conservative voters in Congress. I didn't think I changed. I just saw my party and those that came on board change and take us further to the right. We got to be careful about balancing that. And Biden has that opportunity right now. If he allows and supports this impeachment when his mantra during the campaign was to unify the United States, then I think we're going to be more mistrustful about his agenda as it goes forward. We've got to unify this country. It's going to take leadership. People like Biden now have to do that. My extreme right wing. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Extreme right wing.
My extreme right was exposed with what happened last week. You know, violence begets violence. We've heard that many times, and I think this group thought it was okay because everybody else has been exhorting to violence throughout the last summer up until now. It doesn't make it right. I understand that. But, you know, I lived through the John Boehner years. I lived through the Paul Ryan years. I remember having conversations with them, and they would say, we don't want our members to take hard votes. That's why we're not bringing up. That's why we're not bringing up some of these difficult things like DACA, like healthcare reform. You know, then why did we get elected if we're not going to take on hard votes? Republicans are as much at fault for what we got to today as the Democrats are, in my opinion.
As far as Mr. Biden is concerned, he's playing Pontius Pilate now. He's washing his hands of impeachment. He's not going to promote it. Right. And he's just going to try to step aside because he knows with all his decades in the Senate that he ain't going to get a conviction against Donald Trump in the Senate. No. He knows that. So he's not going to be on that. He's going to float above it. And you'll hear his speech a week from today, and he's going to be the uniter. But he's not going to really be the uniter because in order to do that, you'd have to alienate a lot of people in his party that are far left fanatics. But
correct.
We have a president for another week who, it seems to me, did not understand the potential for violence when he went out and basically told the nation the election was rigged. All right? The election was fraudulent. And he said it over and over and over again. And that you, the American voter who supported him, have to do something about it. That's what the president's presentation was. And there's no doubt about it. That's what he did. I don't think he understood the unintended consequences of his words. Now, I may be giving him a pass because I've known him for so long, but I don't think he calculated wanting violence. Do you?
No, I don't, and I'm not giving him a pass either. You know, one of the things I learned early on with him being president, and he's highly sensational, he overstates so many things, and that you have to just kind of reel it back to reality yourself. Otherwise, you become complicit with that. And I don't believe that his intention was to see the Capitol stormed and the violence to ensue and deaths to result. No, not at all. And I'm not giving him a pass or an excuse. I mean, his legacy, unfortunately, as good as it could have been, has now been tarnished terribly, terribly. What has happened to the Capitol is awful. But it's time for others to do some introspective search and say, you know, we might all be at fault for where we are right now.
Except for me.
Yes.
Not me. Well, I've told the truth to my own economic detriment, by the way. We'll get to that a bit later on. But look, my job is to tell the truth, not to hype stuff, not to speculate on stuff, to do any of that. All right, I take the information that I have. I draw logical conclusions. As I said, Mitch McConnell, I saw this headline. It struck me as untrue, as bogus, as the New York Times has done hundreds of times in the past. But then when I started to investigate McConnell's actual reaction, it didn't look like he was refuting it, and he hasn't refuted it. That tells me McConnell wants Trump tarnished and out of there and never to rise again. But I could be wrong. We're going to continue to investigate. Final question for you. I get this all the time. I get thousands of pieces of mail now because this broadcast is just blown up. Millions of people watching it. And then I'm on syndicated radio all over the world. And the question I get most asked is America doomed? Because of the corrupt media, because of the hatred politically. You said it yourself. You can't even have a civil conversation with your own family anymore. All right? Are we doomed, or is there a way back, in your opinion?
Oh, we're not doomed. We've seen worse in this nation. I mean, we can just be destroyed by ourselves, but we have the ability, and I think we're going to have we got to have reconciliation. We've got to have people coming together genuinely through leadership, statesmanship. But I also believe that there's divine providence that has kept this country alive and going through and surviving some of these great challenges that we've had in the past, whether it be a civil war, a world war, or Vietnam War, or civil rights conflicts. We've been able to overcome those. We will overcome this, but it will take some leadership that will unify this nation and not seek to divide in order to build a base.
All right, Professor, we really appreciate it. Thank you very much for helping us out. If we can ever be of service to you, let us know. Well, Joe Biden is going to be president, and we may be in for some economic uncertainty. That's why now more than ever, I recommend you diversify with gold and silver. The only company I recommend is American Hartford Gold. So please call them right now and tell them Bill O'Reilly sent you, and they will give you up to $1,500 of free silver on your first order. Now, since I've been recommending American Hartford Gold, gold itself up over 40%, silver up over 60%. So don't wait. Call 866-501-5201. That's 866-501-5201, or text BILL to 65532.